If you're watching this video, you probably watch a lot of self-improvement videos and self-improvement gurus and YouTubers, etc. And if you analyze and you stop for a second and think about the type of content that you're consuming, you will notice pretty quickly that they all have the same speech. They all have the same way to put out problems. So every self-improvement video talks about how you're not enough and how your problems and your addictions, etc., are stopping you. And after a quick analytics, you will find that every and each YouTuber niche down to a certain problem that young men face in today's modern age, and they niche down and they try to sell you the solution to that problem, whether be it video game addiction, social media, adult content, etc. You will find for every problem there's a YouTuber that talks about it, and that his whole purpose is to make videos to make you feel bad about yourself and then sell you a product that promises to help you get rid of this addiction. And I've fallen into this trap in the past, and then I realized that these people aren't really trying to help you. They're just trying to sell you the solution to a problem. And how they do that is, first of all, make you feel bad about your problem. And to be honest, there's nothing to be proud of having addictions or problems in your life. That's totally something you need to fix. But how they frame it in general is, you're not succeeding because you're doing this. You're not succeeding because you have this addiction. You're not succeeding because you're doing that and not that. And most of the time, this type of content will put you in a rut and will make you feel like shit. Because now you're aware of your problems, and instead of focusing on improving yourself and being a better man, you will focus on a certain particular problem and make it your whole identity. And your whole identity will be, okay, so I'm the person that deals with a crippling video game addiction, and that's who I am. And unless I stop playing video games, I won't become successful. And whilst there is a part of truth in that, don't get me wrong, most of the time, if you focus on this, you're not helping yourself. Because truly, you can become successful whilst having addiction. Like in the past, I'm pretty sure you can go see successful actors, successful rappers, successful businessmen that had addictions, and that maybe they still deal with those addictions, but still became successful. Because this inherently, X plus Y doesn't equal Z. Having a problem doesn't equal not becoming successful. Once it doesn't help, it doesn't mean that you won't become successful. And I'm not saying that to make you feel good about yourself, or to say, okay, go ahead and leave those addictions and you're totally fine with it and you will just become successful like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just making this video to tell you to be more aware of the content you're consuming, even my content, because maybe in the past I used to do that, and maybe I'll do it in the future to sell some shit, but I don't think I will fall into this trap of making content in order to make people feel bad. I mean, there's a certain way of motivating people, and making them feel bad about themselves can really help. At least it does work on me. When I make myself feel bad about myself, I tend to do better and tend to improve. But what I'm trying to say is, okay, you have problems. First step is to be aware of those problems. Let's take the easiest example that pretty much most people, including myself, deal with, and it's social media. Social media is the hardest drug to quit. Like, I think social media addiction is maybe as hard as cocaine addiction or as other hard substances addiction. Yes, it doesn't have the same effect, but I believe its addiction and getting rid of it is as hard as it is, because the way all social media are built and the way, like, intrinsically how they were made. Like, they literally hired psychologists in order to study people and create the best algorithm possible, but that's another subject that we may get into in another video. But what I'm trying to say, so first of all, acknowledge your addiction. Okay, I'm addicted to social media. That's the first step. The first step of becoming great is acknowledging your flaws. If you don't acknowledge your flaws, you will live in a delusional world where it's hard to make progress, because you're just too delusional. And as a man, delusion in certain areas of life may work, like fake it till you make it. Being delusional can have good impact, but in the precise subject of addictions, being delusional won't fix shit, because you will just cope, and you will maybe not even see your addiction or not see it as an addiction, but that's something else. So first of all, acknowledge your addiction. Second of all, acknowledge how it's stopping you. So if you find yourself scrolling during work hours, that's a pretty damn big problem you got, because if you're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram instead of doing deep work, then that may impact your success. But if you see yourself that, okay, when I finish my day, I get in bed and I scroll for 2 hours, okay, you have your problem here. That problem, that addiction, certainly came from somewhere, because in us we have many versions of you. Like, there's many versions of you. To make it simple, let's say you have the focused one, you have the focused personality, you have the lover, maybe you have one that is extra social, you have one that likes to party, you have one that is a bit narcissistic, you have one that wants clout, etc., etc. One of those, not one of those, all of those are trying to fulfill basic needs. So the one that is on his grind is trying to fulfill the need of becoming successful. The one that is narcissistic is trying to fulfill the need of becoming like the center of attention, and so on and so forth. So one of those traits in you is lacking some aspect of life, and it's trying to replace it with scrolling. Maybe it's a sense of belonging. Maybe you're lacking a sense of belonging to a community, or a lack of friendship. Maybe you don't have that many friends, or maybe you're not satisfied with your friends, or maybe you're just scrolling to watch motivation and think that will get you motivated. So basically, there's one part of you that is trying to fulfill a basic need. And that basic need, it's not finding it in the real world, and it's going and trying to look for it in the easiest, shortest way, which is scrolling. Or maybe in another example, video games. Maybe you need to fill the need of purpose. Video games really give purpose, and this is why they're so dangerous, especially for younger men, because they will give you a sense of fulfillment. You fulfilled your purpose, whilst you just clicked some button on a controller. Once you acknowledge the fact that you have an addiction and find the root, or maybe have a hint on the root, or maybe just an idea of what are you lacking, so what are you trying to find on your addiction that you're not finding in real life, what you're gonna do then is not trying to stop the addiction. Trying to stop the addiction will probably work for strong-minded people, but it will most likely not work for the average Joe. And I'm not calling you average, by the way, but just saying that if you're still struggling with some addictions, there's something you need to fix, and there's no shame in that. We all have our problems, and we all are trying to figure out shit in our life. So what you have to do then is try to find another way to cope. And the best way I find to cope is just do work. Whenever I'm feeling the need of the urge to go on social media, I go on do work. It may seem easy to say, it's easier said than done, but after long enough work, on yourself, after working long enough on yourself, it will become easier and easier. And you may try to apply tactics that you see online. I believe most of them won't work, or they won't really solve a problem. And at least from my experience, most of addictions as a young man come from one and one only thing, is you want to become successful, but you don't know how, or you're afraid to do the work you need to do, or you're just procrastinating the work you need to do, or you just don't want to work. The last one is a problem. The first one, not knowing what you have to do, is kind of the easiest one, because you can go do research, you can go study, you can try and find a business that will pretty much solve it. Not wanting to do the work is a big no-no, so that's the biggest problem, I think. Procrastinating, there's a lot of way to deal with procrastination. And the third one, I forgot the third one, sorry about that. Yeah, so I was saying, if you just work hard enough, and I mean that in an ill-healthy way, like work, gym, sleep, repeat, work, gym, sleep, repeat, work, gym, sleep, repeat. If your schedule look like that, you work on a business or on a project that deeply fulfills you, you go to the gym, you eat right, and you sleep, it will pretty much solve all your addictions. And if you still deal with those addictions, then if it's something that is harmful to your health, like taking drugs or alcohol or smoking, any kind of this stuff, maybe then once you figure out shit and you became somewhat successful, then start giving it attention. But if it's something recreational that doesn't really impact you, and you still figure out to find time, and you still find a way to find time to do that, then maybe you'll just keep living your life with it and being just fine. Like if you become rich as fuck and still play video games for 1 hour a day, or even for 4 hours a day, and you still make good amounts of money, then fuck it, who cares? So this was a little bit messed up, but I think I'm gonna publish it anyways, because who gives a fuck? Nobody watches those videos anyway. And I hope it helped you. As always, my friend, stay strong.